Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Jack and Glenn channel. Before we get started with the review, man, if you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification. We're going to talk about Love is Blind. Love is Blind, the finale of Love is Blind. But we also review other things like Ready to Love, Married at First Sight, myself and my wife, Jack, who's not able to review Love is Blind with me this season. But nonetheless, we're going to break it down. Thanks for joining us once again. Hit the subscribe button, the bell notification. Let's start here. Let's start at the beginning, right where we got left off at. After episode 11, we left off with Jimmy and Chelsea, and they had a great date at the amusement park. Ran out the amusement park had a great date. They was there, and they started to sit there and have a discussion, right? They started to talk about marriage, and and he asked her, like, where do you see us in this process? What can I be in this process? Are you willing and ready to be committed to this process? And she's like, look, I see him as an amazing husband. He's an amazing husband. I think he'll be an amazing dad. I feel secure. I feel good in him. And I think Jimmy she feels good, right? Jimmy wants the relationship. He said he wants the relationship, and she's happy to get it. She said yes. She's like, yo, I'm down for it, right? I'm down. Look, I'm in for it. I want to be with you. And Jimmy said, look, I want the relationship, but I don't want to go to the altar. And her face dropped, right? And I'm not surprised at this. And her thing was like, we went through this whole great day. We had a great day. We had a great moment. It was beautiful. We didn't argue. We had, everything was just perfect and wonderful. You could have told me all day. You had all day to tell me this. Why now? And he's like, it's not the right moment. It wasn't the right moment. It wasn't the right space. I knew this. I knew this, but I want to let you know now. And she was furious, right? She was hot. She's hot. She's like, Jimmy, you said you're not gonna pick me. Why now? Why this way? You just wasted my time. You wasted my time when we was in the pods. You knew you didn't like me from the beginning. You knew you didn't want to be with me from the beginning. Why waste my time? Why waste my energy? And he was like, yo, I did love you. He said, basically, it was up until the last argument where he was like, yo, I love you. I care for you. I want to be with you. And then when he sat down and talked to the guys when they was at the cookout, I guess that also made his decision a little bit better. And I said this on our last video. Nobody wants to be with a person who nags them all the time, right? Somebody who has a whole bunch of insecurities. Somebody who has a lot of baggage. And every time I got to walk on eggshells, I got to make sure my P's and Q's. And they didn't set boundaries in their relationship, right? There was no boundaries in their relationship. They just had, when they came back home, they did whatever. Jimmy talks about how she came back home and she got on FaceTime with her friend, her boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend, and they were just friends and how they had communicated and how they was hanging out. She talked about how Jimmy would get on the phone with his ex-girlfriend or his best friend now that he slept with, and how they would talk and they would communicate. He would text her every day. There was no boundaries, right? They didn't set any boundaries in their relationship. And when you don't set boundaries in a relationship, anything is liable to happen. And what happened here was that there was no boundary set between Chelsea and Jimmy, and it just flowed over. And Jimmy got tired because every argument they had, he mentioned it several times, she was drunk. Alcohol plays a lot in their relationship, and they call it liquid courage, right? Liquid truth. So when she would get that fire water in her and that liquid courage, she would begin to say any and everything and accuse him, and accusations and things would come forth and come out. He was tired. No man wants to be in any relationship, whether it's marriage, whether it's prearranged, whether it's a pod. No man wants to be in a relationship where he's always being accused of doing something that he's not doing, that he's always being pointed out for something he's not doing, where he always has to give you affirmation to confirm you all day long. Nothing wrong with giving affirmation, nothing wrong with confirming, nothing wrong with saying somebody love you, but if they got to give it to you all day long, there's a problem, because you have to give it to yourself. You have to trust the process. You have to trust the relationship. You have to trust in our marriage. You have to trust me to know that I love you, that I'm not going to do anything wrong. And the problem was she did not trust him, and he felt that she didn't trust him, and he can't be in a relationship where you don't feel trusted. Can't be. It's not going to work out. And Jimmy said, look, you broke my trust. I confided in you with something. I gave you something that was off camera. And the first opportunity you had when you got upset with me, the first opportunity you had when you got mad with me is that you will bring it on camera. He said, it wasn't even about me. I could care less about me. But this young lady, you should have been able to protect her because I trusted you with this secret, because I cared for you. I trusted you with this because I loved you. I trusted you with this because I want to be open and I want to be honest. And guess what? She couldn't handle it. And I'm not blaming all this on Chelsea, too, because Jimmy has a fault in this as well. I think he tried a little bit more than she did. And I think he tried to hung on a little bit more than he should have. And I think he really understood. He knew once he got back home that it wasn't going to work out. I think when he realized that she didn't look like Megan Fox, it wasn't going to work out. After the first argument, she's like, "You gonna just break up with me one argument?" No, it's not one argument. She was stuck on the one argument. It's not the one argument. It's the 5 or 6 little arguments that he couldn't get over. The 5 or 6 petty arguments that were discussed, and it was like the clinginess of you. It's one thing being attached to your man. My man, my man, my man. It's fine. But there's also a thing when you're too clingy, that you're too attached, right? Then you got to have some space between these two. And I think he did the job. He stayed there. He stayed in an apartment. He left that one night, but it was there. You have to do that. And my question to you, like, when did she go to work? Like, when you was a flight attendant, you was flying around the country, like, when did you guys hang out, right? I mean, how did you handle that? So that's how she had to look at the relationship. And Jimmy, it was no trust, because I think she would come back off these trips and be like, "Oh, you've been with somebody. You've been with Jess, or you've been with your best friend. You hanging out too late. You gone for an hour. Where you been at?" Like, dog, that's too much. Too much. And so it just didn't work out between Chelsea and Jimmy. And it's sad per se, but I think it's the best that they didn't get to the altar. He disappointed her, right? Or she disappointed him, or this relationship. Because I can see them on their second honeymoon, him going back home or him leaving because it's not working out. It is very that situation, the relationship was very volatile, right? It was very explosive. And anybody who didn't have the demeanor that he had or the calmness he had, it could have got bad, right? Because he had some demeanor, he had some calmness about himself, and he was willing to gather himself and willing to walk away when she was explosive, when she was rude, when she defied his trust. He was willing to do what he needed to do to make it right. And he said some of the right words and said all the things. And again, she wanted to make an argument out of it. At that point, he was like, I'm done. You know, I care about you. I love you. I just don't want to go to the altar, right? Like right now, we're not ready to go to the altar. And again, everybody who watched this show, you really watched this show objectively, you knew that Chelsea and Jimmy wasn't ready to go to the altar, right? They wasn't ready to take that trip. They were just holding on to hold on. And my hat goes off to him, and I commend him for doing it right then and there instead of going all the way through the process. And we'll talk about that later when it gets to Clay. But it was one of those things with her, he just couldn't do it. It wasn't going to work. And not that she's connected to Trevor. And it had nothing to do with Jessica, right? This is the thing. I don't think it had anything to do with Jessica whatsoever. It's just due to the fact that he wasn't happy in the relationship and how volatile it was or was becoming, and how when her drinking just set everything off. She talked about, "Well, you said you didn't want to have sex with me." He said he did initiate. He lied. He didn't remember. He did say, "You initiated. I didn't feel like doing it, but because you initiated, I did." Fine, done deal. All right, you did. But at the same time, the cleanness, the drinking, the fussing, the argument is what made Jimmy say no. So Jimmy said no. It is done. It's over. They're not going to do anything. We don't even see them anymore in this episode, right? After that, it is over. After that, we're like, what else is there? There's nothing else there. So we go ahead and we move on to Clay and AD. And we move on to Clay and AD. We see AD get into the venue, and she likes what she sees. Everything was nice and cute. It was pleasant. She's in her nice little white outfit, showing body like she normally does. And preparing for the wedding, and she's excited. Like, she's like genuinely excited. She's ready to be married to Clay. She's excited to be with Clay, excited to be where her and Clay can enjoy it. No, excuse me, they're at the bachelorette party. Before I even get there, they're at the bachelorette. Her and Amy has a bachelorette party. They're having a good time. AD's dancing on the chair. She's just enjoying life, right? This is my last time being single. A picture of Clay on the chair. She enjoying it, enjoying her moment. Girlfriends out there. And so then we get to the guys who have the bachelor party as well. Clay and Johnny with their bachelor party, bring their friends, about 4 or 5 friends. They're doing some stuff outside. They doing some beanbag toss, things of that nature. Clay says something to this, man. He says, I'm a lot to deal with. And that AD has been able to help him deal with a lot of things. And AD has been a friend to him. AD has been his ride or die. AD has been able to, will be able to fight for him. AD will be able to go to war for him. He is talking AD up. He really cares for AD. You know, AD talks about in her vignette, she fell in love with Clay because he was real and authentic, right? Because he was true to himself. He didn't lie about him. He didn't lie about who he was. He said he was suave. He said he had a problem with women, that he'd been in slept with different women, that his emotion, he wears his emotions on his sleeve, that his parents were divorced. So, Clay has been very authentic to her and through this process, right? She feels like he's been what I needed. He's been a breath of fresh air. And she's felt for him. We've been working some things out. We've been moving some in situations. Clay said he's been more vulnerable with AD. He shows that him and AD have been vulnerable together, and he's been opening up to her. He's been sharing some sides of him that he hasn't shared before, and he's looking forward to this. And this is what he's saying to his guys, to his boys, that he's willing to work this thing out with AD. He's willing to go down the road with AD. He's willing to move with AD. Like, this is one of the best things that could happen to him. He knows he has some things that he needs to work on, but he thinks him and AD could be a force, that him and AD can really work on a lot of things together. And him and AD can move mountains. He wants to, as he's talking to his guys, he said, look, y'all know me. Y'all know me, but I feel like him now, right? I feel like I've arrived. I feel like I've made it to a place. I feel like and sometimes when Clay's talking, right, it seems like he's talking to talk himself up. Like he's talking to encourage himself. Like he's giving himself a third person. Like, hey, he's psyching himself out to move on, to go along, that I can feel this way, to move in that direction. It is, and then he's to the point where, you feel like, what, Clay may actually go through this, right? Clay may actually go through this. AD talked to her mom. Well, before that she talked, AD talked to her mom. Her mom comes in and her mom's like, yo, you know what? I met with Clay's mom. Guess who I hung out with? I hung out with Clay's mom. She's like, yeah, y'all 2 peas in a pod. I'm going to be happy to be part of this family. I'm going to be enjoyable. Her mom shares with her and her bridesmaids that she has a necklace, I believe, is a pendant, a jade pendant that her great grandmother had, would have been passed down to generations. And they give it to AD, and AD's tearing up and crying, and mom is doing, the best to hold AD in because she's happy. We see Clay talking to his mom, where he's like, mom, I'm nervous, and she's like, look, follow your heart. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be fine. Do what you think is best for you. I got your back. I got your support. We'll be there for you, and we'll be there for you for the end. We'll see how this thing progresses, and whatever it is, we got you, right? We did with you. But I think one of the biggest moments, and I'm gonna do a separate video on this, because there's a lot of nuggets in this video. There's a lot of nuggets that you could take from this, and you can see what Clay is, why he is. When Clay met with his dad, man, your dad comes in, dad's smooth and suave, as he said, and dad comes in and give Clay some good advice. He started talking to Clay and say, look, man, I've always loved you kids. I know I didn't do right by you guys. I didn't do right by your mother. But I love you and I respect you. And talk about Clay's accolades. He said, remember the day that you beat me in track. I knew that you had it. I knew. And Clay was like, well, I thought you was in the shape. Then he said, nah, you had it. I've always been in your corner. I support it. His dad just basically told him, I've been living through you. I've been close to the Olympics, and I've been to these games and that games. I've been All-American high school, All-American college, and I've seen you progress, and I've seen you pass me, and I'm proud. I'm proud of the man that you became. I'm proud of who you are and how you are. And Clay began to tell that, I'm proud of you too. I appreciate it. This is the deepest conversation him and his dad has ever had. And Clay was like, when his dad used to cheat on his mom, his dad used to take him with him. Like, you taking your son to see your mistress. You're taking your son to see the other woman, right? You're taking your son to see how that's not his mother, and he understands this, right? So I don't think Clay was at a young age. He was at an older age where he understood what was going on. And so we wonder why Clay is where he is, because, again, he's seen so much as a young child, or seeing young thing from father, the guy he looks up to, the guy that he respects. And dad had laid things out there that was that's not appropriate for a young child to see. Dad laid things that was immoral, that was not ethical. And you had this young man who's seen these things and feel like, hey, you know what, this is dad, but he's hurt. I love my mom, but he hurt my mom as well. And that is one of the things that Clay is dealing with, some of the demons inside of Clay, things that Clay has to get healed with and things overcome. That's where the nervousness comes in for marriage, right? I've been so much like my father in every aspect of my life, right? I'm down to the track running, to all the Americans, to being a star. I've been like my father, everything. And so when I get in this marriage, am I going to be like my dad? Am I going to do what my father did to my mom? I don't want to fail that. And he's carrying all this pressure and he got all this on his back and he doesn't want to be like his dad. But his dad encourages him, man, be great at what you do. Right? Be great at what you do. Be confident in what you do. I'm supporting you. And we're here for you. As I mentioned, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the Clay and his dad's story in another video. So stay tuned for that because there's a lot to this between Clay and his dad. And you see how Clay is and why Clay why Clay is what he is. They say the saying said apple doesn't fall far from the tree. In this case, it didn't fall far from the tree when you come to Clay. His dad mentioned how he didn't have a role model growing up and how he didn't have a father figure. And Clay had a father figure, but his father was showing him the wrong things. And that's what he emulated. And that's where he's at now. AD goes back and say that, both her parents been divorced. Well, her parents been divorced and Clay's parents been divorced, and they're trying to keep a marriage together. And he wants to have a better marriage. So he gets down to the aisle. Clay's there, and mom walks him down. They talk. You see the family. She said, you're going to be emotional when you see AD come down the aisle. And he was a little bit emotional. AD was emotional when she saw Clay standing up there. And they were getting ready to get married. Clay talks to her and he says to her that, AD goes first. The preacher does his vows and there's some things that AD Clay said, I ain't write that, but either way, preacher does his vows and he asks AD, do you take this man to be your husband? And quickly, not a second thought, not even a process. She comes out, I do. It was like quick. Do you take this man to be your lawful wedding husband? I do. Quick like that. So she's in. She's locked in 100%, right? There wasn't no thought about it. Then Clay comes in and said, I'm a better man doing the process and see, once you start with that, right? Because if he was gonna say I do would have happened just like that and that, right? I do would have came real quick. It didn't. When you start peeing, people going, we say, doing a humming, he started humming. Well, I did a better man. I'm a better man doing the process, and I'll be able to come back and move on. And I don't think it's responsible for me to say I do at this point in time. But he still want to rock with her, right? He still want to rock with her, and he's still not 100% where he needs to be. He's not 100% person. He's not healed. And he's not where he's at. Now, he told her this weeks ago, right? That, look, if I go to the altar and I don't say yes, doesn't mean I don't want to marry you, right? I may not want to marry you, but I still want us to be together. And she's like, yo, it's a no deal. Like, if you don't marry me, we can't be together. So he already knew going into this that if he didn't marry her, or if this didn't end in marriage, they wasn't going to rock with each other. They wasn't going to be 100%. That she wasn't going to deal with it. And so as he's explaining and talking to her, I'm sitting here. I looked at my wife like, dog, this gonna be some fireworks right here. But my hat's off to AD. AD held it together. She kept her composure. She didn't go angry black woman on him. Her family didn't go off. I guess I don't know if they production tell family members like, look, whatever happened, y'all stay still, stay put. Because I know some of my family would have went off. Would have been hot. But I guess they, and she's like, Clay, what's the F? Like, Clay, what, why? Like, why you do this to me? Like, what's going on? Why? And he's just like, I just 100%. And he apologized. She walks off. Mom's trying to console her. She's like, look, I need a minute. Because she's heartbroken. I mean, she's heartbroken. Tears, she's like heartbroken, embarrassed, upset, frustrated, not knowing what to do, where it come from. Because again, all she knows, you love me, right? And you got to break all this comes into play. I gave you myself. I've been everything a wife needed to be or what a wife should be, and you still reject me. All right. She felt like you rejected me. When you reject the marriage, you rejected me. She told Amy, like I can't be with somebody that I haven't driven a car with. So okay, we know they had sex, right? So I think it was had sex like on a honeymoon or right off the honeymoon, but we know now she had sex with Clay. So she's giving Clay everything. She talked to Clay. She been there for Clay. She supported Clay. She put up with Clay stuff, not coming home from work and not trying to spend time with her, and their schedules conflicting. She's done all this, and she feel like I'm always to the point. Why do I always feel like I'm not enough? Right? She said, I always feel like I'm not enough. I do all these things for men, but I'm not enough. Insecurity. She feel like she's not enough because she's done all those things. And that's the whole different other video. Because again, sometimes you give to people too much, too early, too quick, too soon, thinking that's going to keep them around, and it doesn't, right? It doesn't keep them around. He's gotten everything. Clay comes, it's not where it needs to be in a relationship. She's upset, mom. Like I said, could try to console her. She needed a minute to process herself, get her thoughts together. And while she's composing herself and thinking, Clay's talked to his mom, and she's like, you don't owe anybody anything, right? If that's the way you felt, and that's the way you lead with your heart, if you feel like you wasn't ready, then don't let nobody force you to be ready. Don't let nobody force you to be in a relationship. He talked to his dad, and dad said, look, I understand. I haven't always been there, and I haven't always done the right things, but I'm supporting you here, and I understand what goes on and what's going on. Then we have a conversation between mom and dad, and I'll probably break that down a little bit more in the Clay and dad video. Mom was like, look, my son has a lot on his back, and what he has on his back comes from you. In other words, he's carrying your burdens. He's carrying what you did to me. She said, I've made peace with it a long time ago. But he hasn't made peace with it because, again, you showed him some things that he wasn't supposed to see. He'd done things that he wasn't supposed to do. He heard things that he wasn't supposed to hear. And she's blaming dad. And dad like, yeah, I understand. I get it. And she like, she said, I'm hearing things that I didn't even hear before when we got divorced, things that Clay seen, things that Clay heard that he shared with me during this process. And she's like, I'm opening some old wounds about me. And she said, but I forgive you. Dad tried to apologize. She's like, no, it's not about us. Let's keep it moving. He talks to Clay again. Clay said, you think I should go talk to AD. And he has a conversation with AD, and she's sitting there and she again holding it together. Like, I thought you loved me. He said, I do love you. I just didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want to walk down the aisle and not give you 100% myself in the marriage process, right? I didn't want to be able to say they give 100% and you deserve 100%, and I'm not ready there. I need counseling. I need therapy. And I take my hat off to him for being for knowing this. My only thing with Clay is why wait until the wedding day, right? If you knew this ahead of time, and I think he tried to tell her, he could have bowed out like Jimmy, right? Could have bowed out like Jimmy, but he went through the process and he bowed out at the altar. He left her at the altar. And I guess that's part of the show and the drama of it. But I think he knew this before. He said it was a game time decision. Your heart knows, man. Your heart knows, your stomach knows, your mind knows. He knew that it wasn't going to work out. Then he goes on to say, he didn't understand her finances. Finances are big to him. So he didn't understand her money. In other words, he tried to say her money's funny. And her change is strange. He didn't know what her finances looked like. Didn't know what her finances were and what they are. We didn't see them talk much about finances in their relationship, but he's like, her finances a little funny. He said he looked in the mirror and realized that I'm no husband. All right. He looked in the mirror and said he realized that, you know what? I'm not the answer. I can't be that. It's no, right? I'm not deeply in love with her. I love her, but I'm not deeply in love with her. I like her, but I'm not deeply in love. And when he realized he wasn't deeply in love with her, that was the no. So when he woke up that morning and he looked in the mirror or whatever, he knew the answer was no. And I think that was the biggest issue there with him as well, that he didn't want to be with her. And it was no. And like, she's like, I can't be friends with you. Like, our relationship is over. She told him that before, but she made it known in a vignette that the relationship between her and Clay, it's done. Like, we're not going to be in this relationship. We're not together. We can't be together. If it's not marriage, it's a bust because I put too much time and effort into this. And I'm moving on. Back to Clay's mom and dad. Clay's mom, like, you need to have closure with your son. He doesn't have closure. All right? They didn't have closure. I think the coldest statement of the whole show was like, look, he said, Clay's dad was like, yo, I'm glad I met you. And, you know, you like the best thing happened to me to his mom. She's like, yeah, you met me, but you wasn't good to me. And I think that's where a lot of guys are at. We meet women, we're with women, but we're not good with them. And I think that was Clay's fear too. He met AD. He was going to be with AD. He was 100% sure if he could be good to AD. And AD needed somebody to be good to her, somebody to love her, to treat her. And I feel like AD was just putting up with a lot of stuff. AD put up with him not coming home because of the apartments. AD put up with the not spending time. AD put up with the frustration and the not being communicative or being communicated, having that communication. She put up with some of that stuff. And in a relationship, there's some things you put up with, but it was on 2 weeks. Clay said in 2 weeks, I didn't feel like this is where we needed to be at in 2 weeks. He needed more time. And I can't bash him for that, right? I'm not going to knock him for that. Right? We ask guys to be honest and be vulnerable and be more mature. And this dude was vulnerable. He was open. He was honest. He was mature. Do we knock him for being open? Do you knock him for being honest? Do you knock him for being mature? My only knock on him, he should have told her earlier, not at the altar. Right? Earlier, not at the altar. He said it was a game time decision. I only can take with his word. I don't think it was a game time decision. I think he knew prior to, and he should have just pulled the trigger. All right? But his reasoning, I agree with his reasoning. He's scared. He's scared. There's not enough time. I can't commit 100%. I'm not there. It makes you question those long nights when he was at the bouncing back between jobs. Was he with somebody else, right? What was he doing? Was that a way for him to take a break from AD? Was that a way for him to try to figure things out and try to structure his life and get it together? I mean, only time will tell. Hopefully, you know, in some interviews, post interviews with AD, and then we'll see how that pans out. But give me your thoughts, man. Let me know about AD and Clay, your thoughts on this. As I mentioned, we're going to do another video about Clay and his dad and some of the scenes there. Your thoughts, your opinions on Clay and AD. Did they make the right decision? Did Jimmy and Chelsea make the right decision? And we go to Johnny and Amy, man. What could I say? Johnny and Amy, most of this episode, really, most of this show was about AD and Clay, right? AD and Clay saying no. Majority of this, if you haven't watched it, you watched the review before you even watched the show. It was about Clay and AD, really, and nothing else. All right, we see Clay and AD, Amy and Johnny. What can you say? They both say yes, right? At the end of the day, they say yes. It's no drama, no detail. I'm going into nothing deep. Johnny and Amy say yes. I love the fact that Amy's dad was doing a toast, and he called Johnny's son, that he embraced the relationship. That was one of her biggest fears, that he wouldn't embrace the relationship. He wouldn't embrace her and him being together. But dad was able to embrace that. And so it's good for them. So I'm glad to see him. Hopefully, can't wait for the reunion to see how Johnny and Amy interact, if they're still married. Want to see how Clay and AD interact. Have they talked afterwards? Have they dealt with anybody? Jimmy and Chelsea, see where they're at. See Jeremy, Sarah, Ann, and Laura, their debacle or their triangle. See how that's panning out and play. So reunion next week is going to be hot. That comes out on March 13th. We'll drop the video on that as well. I really enjoyed this season of Love is Blind, season 6 of Love is Blind. I'm glad I came back to the season. I took a season or two off, but hey, it is good to see that there is one couple that made it, right? One couple that made it. I was rooting for Clay and AD, but again, it wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be, and I understand why. All right, and I think we all should understand why. He was going to break her heart later on, and that's not what he wanted to do, because he saw divorce. You see how divorce broke his family, and he wanted to break a cycle, right? He wanted to break a generational curse. He wanted to break something, and he felt like he couldn't do it with AD. And I think, kind of you honor that, right? You kind of look at, what, he is being responsible in that situation for making that decision, but when he did it was the biggest answer. So again, let me know what you think. Comment in the comment section below. If you watch all 29 minutes of this video, why not hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Do us a favor too, if you want to, man, join the membership. All right, it's not expensive, it's only $1. Join the membership so you can get some up-to-date information, some behind-the-scenes type stuff, some new content from us that will be only just members only. So please join the membership. Hit the subscribe button, bell notification. Thanks for rocking with us, and check us out next week. Check out some of our other stuff. Married at First Sight, Ready to Love. Put a ring on it whenever it comes back, if it comes back. But check out the videos in the archives. Once again, appreciate you. Thanks for rocking with us. And have a great day. Thanks. Peace. Enjoy.